in the dimly lit chambers of the 19th century, where flickering candlelight illuminates dark secrets, I shall recount to you slowly, word by word, like the River Thames winding through London's mist, the tale from the yellowed pages of history. Dear viewers, imagine slowly, in 1889, in Liverpool, the bustling port city of the British Empire, a wealthy man, James Maybrick, died in excruciating agony, his body flooded with arsenic, the deadly poison he was addicted to as a secret habit. Picture him lying on his sickbed, his skin pale as beeswax, his eyes dazed, staring into nothingness, while drops of poison silently gnaw at every fiber of his flesh. But who was the perpetrator? His wife, Florence Maybrick, a beautiful American young woman, was accused of poisoning her husband to conceal her secret affairs. This case was not just a death, but a social storm, where gender prejudices and Victorian justice collided fiercely, shocking thousands across both shores of the Atlantic. Arsenic, an invisible poison, but a tangible fate that forever changed a woman's destiny. Florence Elizabeth Chandler, born on September 3, 1862, in America, was a beautiful young woman from a well-to-do family. Picture her in a long flowing dress, her hair gleaming under the sea sun, in 1880, on the ship Baltic, crossing the Atlantic. She met James Maybrick, a Liverpool cotton merchant, 23 years her senior, who had been divorced and had children from before, in a black formal suit and eyes sharp as a blade. They married in 1881 in England, living in the luxurious Battle Crease house in Agworth, Liverpool, a grey stone mansion with tall windows overlooking a lush garden where shadows creep through the leaves. But this marriage, dear viewers, was no fairy tale. James, a man addicted to arsenic as a popular tonic in Victorian times, used to cure illnesses and boost health, but actually a accumulating poison, frequently had affairs with mistresses, and even mentally abused his wife, Florence, lonely. In the harsh English society, sought comfort from Alfred Brierly, a friend of her husband. They had 2 children, but family life was full of turmoil, suspicion, arguments, and secret love letters. The Victorian era, with its strict moral standards, where women were bound by marriage and male-dominated society, turned this relationship into a slow prison, leading to an inevitable tragedy. James Maybrick began to fall seriously ill in April 1889 after a horse racing trip. Picture him riding a horse under pouring rain, his body soaked, and the pain starting to gnaw from there. He complained of severe abdominal pain, vomiting, and his body weakened, his skin turning ashen like autumn leaves. The family doctor initially diagnosed digestive disorder, but the condition worsened, with symptoms like diarrhea and convulsions, classic signs of arsenic poisoning. According to the medicine of the time, Florence worried, cared for her husband with folk remedies, including arsenic, that James had used himself, those glass bottles glistening under gaslight, which were popular tonics but dangerous. But then, on May 11, 1889, James died in extreme agony, his body convulsing as if tortured by an invisible poison. The housemaid, Alice Yap, discovered Florence's love letters to Alfred Brierly, those thin papers, ink-smeared black, full of whispered affections, becoming deadly evidence. And James's brother, Michael Maybrick, who had long hated Florence, suspecting her as a foreigner, quickly accused her of poisoning her husband. With hateful eyes under his silver mustache, and arranged for the family to turn their backs on her. The family conspiracy began. James's brothers, including Michaela, famous musician, took control of the house, isolated Florence, and even changed the death certificate from acute gastritis to arsenic poisoning, like rewriting medical history to accuse her. The investigation began. Police found arsenic bottles in the house. An autopsy confirmed high arsenic levels in James's body. Imagined doctors in white coats, holding scalpels under dim lights, discovering toxic traces, but arguing whether it was from long-term addiction or intentional poisoning. The great challenge, dear viewers, was not only the ambiguous medical evidence, since James was addicted to arsenic for years, possibly self-accumulating the poison, and medical experts fiercely debated the lethal dose, but also the deep Victorian social prejudices. Women of that time were judged not only for crimes, but for morals. Adultery was a sin as grave as murder, and Florence, an American foreigner, was seen as a demon in the eyes of the English press. Those black and white newspaper pages, headlines, screaming like cries from hell, calling her the poisonous wife, even before the trial opened. The court dominated by men, with Queen Victoria publicly suspecting her. Her portrait, with a sparkling crown but stern eyes sweeping across, reflecting the view that women must be pure, and any deviation deserved death. She faced the death penalty. While the evidence was only indirect, love letters, poison bottles, testimony from hostile maids, and conspiracy from her husband's family, all exaggerated by gender prejudices, where women were seen as weak but dangerous if they betrayed. Society divided. English press called her the wicked Mrs. Maybrick, while American women and some English groups supported her, seeing it as clear gender injustice. With American press calling for intervention from President Harrison, the case became a symbol of women's oppression, where justice was obscured by harsh moral standards. And Florence was convicted not only for killing her husband, but for being a fallen woman in the eyes of the era. Imagine slowly a lonely woman conspired against by her husband's family, standing before the bar in a male-dominated society, with invisible chains tightening her throat, and public opinion like a storm sweeping away all hope. The investigation deepened. The maid accused Florence of soaking flypaper in arsenic to extract poison. Picture those soaked papers, wet and deadly, which she later claimed were only for making cosmetics for the skin. And doctors argued whether the arsenic in James's body was from self-use or poisoning, with hand-drawn, trembling medical charts, where experts like Dr. Humphreys and Dr. Tidy disagreed on the lethal dose. One side said self-addiction, the other suspected poisoning. The trial at St. George's Hall, Liverpool, from July 31st to August 7th, 1889, presided over by Judge James Fitzjames Stephana, famously strict man. But his health was weak then, his face pale under his wig, leading to mistakes in guiding the jury. Defense lawyer Sir Charles Russell tried to prove James was addicted to arsenic, with testimony from pharmacists and his friends, those witnesses in old-fashioned suits, trembling voices, recounting how James bought arsenic monthly to boost health. But the prosecutor emphasized Florence's love letters, turning the trial into a morality trial, judging morals more than crime, with letters read aloud before the gaping crowd, and adultery seen as indirect evidence of murder motive. Gender prejudice was clear. The trial was not just about arsenic, but about depraved women, where femininity was linked to evil and English press exaggerated the affair to convict her before public opinion. The public exploded. English press published daily, calling Florence the wicked Mrs. Maybrick. Those crumpled newspaper pages in readers' hands on cobblestone streets, while some, like the Liverpool Echo, began to doubt the fairness. Meanwhile, in America, women petitioned President Harrison to intervene, with signatures piled up like spiderwebs from women's rights groups, and even in England, thousands of signatures from supporting women. Seeing the case expose gender injustice, women convicted for adultery while men's addictions were forgiven. The profound theme: in Victorian times, justice was obscured by prejudice, and Florence became a symbol for women's rights, with activists like W.T. Stead writing in defense, calling the sentence torture to death. After the initial death sentence, public opinion changed thanks to petitions, leading to commutation to life imprisonment in 1889. But not acquittal, a half-hearted compromise. She was imprisoned in Woking and Aylesbury, enduring 15 years of harsh imprisonment. Imagine those damp stone walls, clanking chains, and the figure of a woman in gray prison uniform walking slowly in the prison yard, where she wrote her memoir amid loneliness and injustice. She wrote the memoir, My 15 Lost Years, to slowly recount her injustice. Those yellowed pages full of tears, exposing the injustice of the male-dominated legal system. In the trial, the key moment, on August 7, 1889, despite weak evidence, Judge Stephen declared Florence guilty, sentencing her to death. Picture the wooden gavel pounding the table, shaking the courtroom, and Florence's face pale as paper. With the crowd cheering, justice has won. Public opinion exploded. English press cheered, calling it a deserving sentence for the wicked. But thousands of petitions from women in both countries, even Queen Victoria, had to review, with long rolls of paper full of signatures from America and England, calling for acquittal due to gender prejudice. The verdict changed. On August 22nd, the death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment due to reasonable doubt, a late decision from the Home Office, but still keeping her in prison, reflecting the compromise between public opinion and era's prejudices. The importance: the case exposed flaws in Victorian justice, promoting legal reforms like establishing the Court of Appeal in 1907 and raising awareness of women's rights, with later historians seeing it as a miscarriage of justice due to gender and ambiguous medicine. Florence, despite imprisonment, changed history with H.